Welcome to Real Thoughts with Bob Benham. I am Bob Benham, and we're back for another episode. And like I said last time, this time we're going to talk a little bit about NASCAR. I have been a huge fan of this sport for, oh gosh, 40 years plus. And to give you a little bit of a background of my knowledge of the sport, um, my dad raced local tracks back when I was a kid. He started racing when I was about, I want to say, through what, 8, 9 years old. And we used to go watch him race on Sunday nights. And uh, my sister and brother would go to. My mom did for a little bit until dad kind of had a scary crash where he ended up on top of a dirt pile. We couldn't see what was happening until because there was all this dust and dirt flying, and then all of a sudden, when it cleared, he was on top of this dirt pile, and my mom didn't like that, and she said, "I don't think I'll be going again." And so that did deter dad from quit racing, and it definitely didn't deter us kids from going. We had a blast. So, but anyway, as we continue to go, dad raced for probably on and off for oh god, uh, I want to say about 6 years, 7 years, something like that. And he won his fair share of races over that time. And finally, he just had to step away because of the cost and stuff like that. The tracks he raced at were not sanctioned by NASCAR or anything like that. It was a local sanctioning body, and but he enjoyed it. That was his escape from reality, from the hustle, bustle, stress of everyday life. And so that was his getaway. And I understood it. My sister and brother understood it. And we loved going with dad. There were times where he would get done racing, and we would end up going to a local restaurant right around the corner from the speedway, and it would be late Sunday night, early into Monday morning, and gosh, I can't even tell you how late it was when we got home and got to bed. But it was fun for us. My sister and brother and I, to this day we joke and have many laughs about watching dad race, and it was just good times. We talk about the music that was played at the racetrack. We still remember the flagman's name. We remember some of the drivers that raced there. Some of the cars we watched that raced. I mean, just a lot of memories of the Speedway. Uh, there's a Facebook page for that Speedway. It's no longer there. It was torn down. Gosh, probably about 35 years ago, or maybe about 30 years ago, because of poor management, and the town that it was in did not want it there, as usual, and because of the noise and stuff, so they wanted it out of there, and they finally got their wish, and the management of the Speedway was not very good, and they ended up messing up, and the town was able to step in and say, "You're out of here," and that was the end of it. But anyway, uh, back to I mean, we had so many good memories there, and then of course my dad raced at a couple other local tracks in the area, and so it was fun. We had a lot of fun doing it, and After that, uh, I got to be a real big fan of the NASCAR Cup Series and the lower divisions, like back then it was the Busch Series. Followed the trucks a little bit. I didn't really get into the trucks very much. I didn't just didn't really appeal to me. Um, but I got into the ARCA series, um, and the local track stuff. I never got away from the local track stuff. That's to me that's always been some of the best racing because those guys are doing it because they love the sport and um, it's just it's somewhat of a hobby to them, but it's also for some of those guys it's their way of living and it's a hard way of life because that sport's expensive and it takes a lot of work to make it where it's your bread and butter. But anyway, I got into the following the NASCAR Cup Series mostly, and the Bush Series, and I followed. I mean, I was so far into it. I was subscribing to newspapers. I was into every trying to find. Well, it wasn't even the internet wasn't even there yet, so I had to wait for the weekly newspapers to come to keep up with what the drivers were doing, with what the standings were, with what the latest news, what the race recaps, all that stuff, because uh, the newspapers here in the area that I live, you would get a little blurb like that big in the newspaper that's said, oh, so and so won the race and so was second and the other, so and so was third. That was it. That was all the coverage you got. So it was very disheartening about what happened in the race, unless you were able to watch it. I mean, I was basically it was like, okay, I'm watching every Sunday, so I know what happened, and I could talk about it. So, but then again, the area I lived in, there was no talking about it because most people that I knew didn't watch it. They didn't care. Um, so then finally in what was it, 1993, the Cup Series tested at Indianapolis Motor Speedway for. They had an open test there, and they had just announced that they were going to race there in 1994. And so my late wife and I, we decided, she said, hey, let's go over and check out the test. And I said, hey, that'd be great. So we took off and went over there. And that was my first exposure to the Cup Series and seeing them on track live. Never got the chance to see them up until that point. And I walked through the tunnel under turns 1 and 2, came out, and the very first car I saw was Harry Gant. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, he was full speed, and I was like a kid in a candy store. I mean, I was just to hear him and to see him and to see the speed and I mean, it was just incredible. And then to see Mark Martin and uh, Ricky Rudd and all those guys, Dale Earnhardt, and I mean, it was just I was just so taken aback. Bill Elliott. I mean, these guys were just, they were the, I mean, this was the time when NASCAR was really finding its stride and getting popular. And it was wonderful. It was just, I mean, I was having a blast. And we spent all day there watching. And I mean, pe- they had all the transporters were parked outside the garage area, which was really cool. So I got several pictures of me with of the transporters. Unfortunately, that was this year that Alan Kulwicki, the 1992 Cup champion, died in the plane crash at Bristol. And then in July, right before, not, I mean, it wasn't even 3 weeks maybe before that test, where he had been killed in a helicopter crash, and Davy's transporter. I got a picture with Davy Allison's transporter. Oh God, that was touching because I was a huge fan of both of them. And so that was kind of a tough situation because what was really made tough was both transporters were parked side by side. Um, I mean, I literally was touching both of them, and that was really tough because like I said, I was a huge fan of both of them, and to have when the sport lost both, I was like, well, who am I going to pull for now? Those were my two drivers, and it eventually. I was a fan of Mark Martin as well, and once after a little bit, I just devoted pretty much all my time to following Mark Martin, and then I started really following Ricky Rudd quite a bit because I liked Ricky because he was a one man team. He owned his own car and team, and he was. I just enjoyed following him and seeing what he was doing for himself. So anyway, that's kind of how I got really into it. And then after seeing the test session, uh, my late wife decided to surprise me with tickets to North Wilkesboro that October. And that was the very first cup race that I ever attended. And I was hooked immediately. I was hooked. And so they, we went to the cup race at Wilkesboro, and we were there for the whole weekend. And then Saturday, we decided to take a trip to Charlotte, North Carolina, because we wanted to find the race shop for Alan Kulwicki. And here we find it, and it's right out literally almost out the back door to Charlotte Motor Speedway. And as we were leaving, we went by the front gate to Charlotte, and the ticket office was open because the very next weekend, the Cup Series was going to be at Charlotte. So we decided, hey, my wife and I were like, well, let's just stop in and see what this is about. And so we stopped into the ticket office, and they had like a gift shop and stuff like that inside there. And they still had some tickets available for the Cup race the next weekend at Charlotte. So I got on the phone. I called my brother, and I said, hey, you want to come down and go to a Cup race with us? There was some seats available at Charlotte. We'll get 3 of them. You can come with my wife and I, and we'll go to the Cup race together. And he's like, Yeah, what the heck? So the very next weekend, the three of us went down and caught the Cup race at Charlotte, and that was so I got to see a short track. And the very next weekend, I was at an intermediate track, and uh, Charlotte was immediately my favorite intermediate track. I mean, it was incredible to watch the race there. We had good seats. Um, the racing was fabulous. I mean, it was just uh, it, it was just incredible to watch. Ernie Irvin ended up winning the race, and he was the one driver that took over for Davey Allison. So it was kind of a bittersweet kind of thing in a way because he took out Davey Allison the year before at Atlanta in '92 and ended Davey Allison's championship run, and here he is driving Davey's old car and ends up winning at Charlotte. It was wild, but anyway, it was some of the memories I have anyway. But that's just how I ended up really getting into NASCAR. Um, but that was the old days, and for me, um, it gave me an opportunity to actually learn uh, what the sport was about. They were more open to um, giving uh, not so much information about what they were doing, but they were the when you listen to them on headphones on their channels and stuff, you could listen to the drivers and crew chiefs talk, and they would talk about what adjustments they were going to make on their pit stops and stuff like that. So like, you would hear the driver say, "Hey, I need a pound of air in the right front or half pound of air in the right front to tighten me up a little bit," or I need a pound or I need a round of wedge in the right rear to kind of loosen me up, something like that. And so that gave me some knowledge about how the chassis worked on a race car. Um, and it ended up where I ended up getting a car and racing for a little bit. This was 25 years ago now. Uh, and my brother and I did that for a couple years. And oh boy, that was expensive. We decided to jump into a class of cars that was, oh, pretty much over our heads. And it took a while to learn what needed to be done to be competitive. Um, and unfortunately, we also got into a point where we got talked into hiring somebody, or basically not hiring, but well, I guess you could say hiring because we ended up paying the guy, but we ended up putting somebody behind the wheel of the car that we should have never done. We got talked into it, and the car came back on the back of a wrecker more often than not, and he was more of a hot dog than a driver, and what a nightmare. And so the that what killed it was there was a night that it came back. The car ended up coming back on two wreckers, one in the front, one in the back, and the car was off the ground. And as soon as it hit the ground, I said, "That's it, I'm done." And I ended up, instead of just taking a few days and cooling down, I said, I'm out of it. I was so mad. I said, anybody that comes up to me with cash, the car's sold, it's gone, I'm done. Everything, I'm selling all of it. Everything that has to do with it, gone. And the guy came up to me with cash, and I said, take it. And that was that. Um, Bad move on my part, really bad. Um, and that's a huge regret that I have. Um, but that was I should have taken a couple weeks, let things calm down, and I probably would have been better off for it. Just fired the idiot that we had in the car, and either my brother or myself jumped in behind the wheel and just went and did it. Um, but you always have regrets and mistakes you make, and that was one of my big ones, and that's one of the ones that I carry with me, and uh, it ended up causing a huge rift between my brother and I. We didn't talk for, God, probably almost 2 years. Uh, but it's like I said, that was one of my biggest regrets and mistakes that I made in my life. And it's one of those things that you just look back on and go, hey, you can't let that happen. And I learned a big lesson from that one. Really, really big lesson. But anyway, back to the racing thing and stuff. And so, anyway, by that time, uh, we did that for a couple of years. We did win a couple of races. Not bad, really. We did okay. I still continued to go to cup races on a few weekends, and like by me doing the racing and then going to the cup races, and the fact that by having my own car, I actually had a chance to get behind the wheel a couple times and get out on the track. It gave me a whole different perspective and appreciation for what the cup guys do, or just any race car driver does. Um, it's not easy driving one of those cars at all. Um, that they are very, very tough to drive, and fun, very fun, a lot of fun, but hard. Um, it just takes a lot of concentration. Uh, once you get, and it's funny because of the concentration that it takes, you don't have any idea of how hot it is inside the vehicle or car. You don't realize how much your adrenaline's going, how hard you're breathing, your heart rate stuff, that kind of stuff. You don't realize how wide your eyes are. You don't realize how much you're blinking or not blinking your eyes. Um, I mean, it's because you're focused. You are just you're right. I mean, you're just looking. You're just watching what's going on. You're feeling the car. Um, it's not easy. And in the corners, you're just the amount of G forces, because you're carrying so much speed through those corners. Um, the car's trying to literally throw you out the right side of the car. It's an experience. Um, but anyway, it's a lot of fun. It really is. It's a lot of fun. Like I said before, it's expensive though. Whew. To buy the pieces and the parts it takes uh, to go fast and to handle. I mean, it is such a radical thing to do to get a car to turn left um, and to do it fast. There's a lot that goes into it, um, a lot more than I ever would have thought. Um, but it was a challenge that I liked um, to get the car to do that because there is so much involved in it that you just sit there and go, okay, I got to do this and this and this, and then once you go out there and if it doesn't feel right, you gotta start. Then you start taking all these little things and start. Okay, well, I can adjust this, and if that didn't work, then I can go back and then I can put this in it. And it's just it's a fine-tuned thing. And it's just, I mean, it's just, I had a lot of fun with it. Um, I'm sure, like, it's for a lot of people, it's boring as hell. I always got, well, why do you watch a car going around in circles? It's just a car going in circles. That's boring as hell. Um, to a lot of people, yeah, it would be boring as hell because they don't know what goes into making that car go that fast around in circles and how much work it takes on with getting the car built to be able to go that fast around in circles, plus the amount of talent and work that that driver has to do to get that car to go around in circles. Um, it is incredible the amount of work and the amount of talent and the amount of concentration and everything about it that has to happen for it to go. It's crazy. So I have a lot of respect for those guys. A lot of respect for those guys. Um, and it after getting involved and doing it myself for those couple of years. Whenever a driver would get introduced at Cup race or a Busch Series race or whatever, uh, in the early years, yeah, I would be one of the ones that was up there, woo-hoo, like when they were to introduce somebody I didn't like. And then once I never booed another driver after that. Never did. I clapped for every one of them because knowing what I knew about how tough it was, they all got my respect, every one of them. And, it's, they earned it, in my opinion. So, but anyway, that's just how I got into NASCAR and where I got to the point where I got a knowledge of it to be able to appreciate it a little more than, say, the normal person outside of the sport. Um, now with this new car that they have, this next gen, I'm clueless with the car. I have no idea of the kinds of settings it takes to run. They've totally taken it and made it a total engineering thing, and with everything being uh, single supplier, to me they ruined it. Um, I'd rather see the steel bodies back. I'd rather see the 5 lug nuts back, because that's what a real car has. They don't have single lug nut. Plus it brings back the human element on the lug nuts again. You know, they were wanting to slow the pit stops down, and then they bring this single lug nut thing. What the hell? Then the bodies, going to the composite bodies. Now they're beating the hell out of each other on the racetrack because they know that they're not going to hurt the car. They're just knocking each other like it's a demolition derby. It's crazy. Put the steel bodies back on it so that way they can't do that, because I know if they hit each other, they're going to be knocking something in on a tire and they're going to cut it down and probably wreck, or worse. They're just doing that. It's crazy what they're doing. Anyway, but we'll get into that on another episode, because it's just I'm not a fan of this new car. It's probably, as you can tell by now. I'm already starting down that rabbit hole, because I don't get the reason why they felt like they had to go that route. They're limiting horsepower. They're putting this stupid body on there, and everything's single source parts. The chassis, everything's built by somebody else, and the race teams are basically assemblers. They put it together and to put on the racetrack. And I prefer the teams go back to making the chassis, building the bodies, and let them come up with the innovations for making the racing better. Because NASCAR's blown it with this car. And there's really no answer to make it any better. That's the problem. They tried this softer tire thing, failed. For the short tracks. With this 5-speed transmission, they're shifting on the ovals. You don't need to be shifting on ovals. Get rid of that. There's too much, and way too much, and I'll get into that later. It just it drives me nuts. It all drives me nuts. Plus, some of the rules changes with this. I don't like the playoffs. I still believe in a single season champion. The consistency of running well all year, and you're the champion. This playoff system it's a 10 race championship basically. You don't have to run good all year. You run good for 10 races and you're the champion. It doesn't make sense. The first 26 races are basically throwaways. You get, because if you win, you're in for the playoffs. So you win one race and you got 25 throwaways because you don't have to worry because you're already in the playoffs. Um, I just don't know. It takes away so much from the legitimacy of the sport to me anyway. And there's a lot of people I've talked to um, inside the sport, outside the sport, that pretty much agree that you know they're taking away so much legitimacy. It's more like it's kind of given that everybody's a winner type thing, um, like you have in schools today. Everybody gets that participation trophy rather than okay, um, this guy, you know, you win the race, and whoever wins the races, okay, that's fine. They win during the year, but if you run the best all season long, okay, so if you win one race and you ran the best all season long, running second, third, whatever, most of the races, you win the championship because you accumulated the most points. That's how it works. Um, the stage racing. Oh my God, get rid of that. They don't need stage racing. I mean, if they want to keep the stage racing, okay, fine, but just get rid of the damn cautions that are at the end of these stages. You can have it like okay, at the third point, at 1/3 point, and at the 2/3 point, you can award points if you want to do it that way. But keep the green flag out. They can do it like they used to do back in the day. They had the halfway challenge. They used to be called, I think, the Gillette halfway challenge, where the leader at the halfway point used to get a $10,000 bonus for leading at the halfway point, and you could do it that way. Whoever the leader is at the 1/3 point gets to 10 points, and then the second to back to get all the way to 10th gets the points, and then they get the 10 points plus the point bonus playoff. You can do it that way, but just keep the green out and let them run from lap 1 to the end of the race under green, like the old days, because this caution for stages, it eliminates so much of race strategy. It takes away from the race because they know there's going to be a mandatory caution. There's no strategy involved anymore. They don't have to sit there and calculate, okay, well, we got to make a fuel stop here or a tire stop or whatever. It eliminates all that stuff. So that's just, there's too much that takes away from to me, the legitimacy of racing. These guys don't have to worry about running, 150, 200 laps straight before a caution comes out or something, or running a whole race under green. I've been to races myself where Wilkesboro, 400 laps, green flag racing. Green flag to checkered. The whole race was under green. In fact, Jeff Bodine did that, and I think it was 1994. He lapped the entire field, ran under green. Let's see, Talladega was another one. Green flag, 188 laps, 500 miles. Trying to think. I thought there was another one I think I went to. It was a green flag race. And those are the incredible races, really, because those guys have to sit there in that car no brakes because of for a caution or nothing. They are running the whole race under green flag conditions. That is tough. I mean, that is tough. So they need to go back to that. They really need to go back to that. That's just, I mean, you want to put excitement back into stuff, you know, 500 laps at can you imagine 500 laps at Martinsville on the green? Oh my goodness. You know, they get these 200 lap runs at Bristol. I mean, or that they used to do 200, 250 lap runs. Where else? Richmond used to have those long runs. Um, you know, these short tracks. You don't see that anymore. Um, it's just they need to go back to a lot of this stuff. You know, and okay, yeah, I know what the argument is, and it is because of this young generation that has such a short attention span. Well, you know what? That's on them. But at least do it. If they can't watch it, I mean, they'll learn. They'll learn to watch it. It doesn't take much because there's enough excitement in these races to do it. So get back to it. Go back to it. There's nothing wrong with it. And then the start times. Start the races at 1 p.m. every Sunday, period. If you want a night race, start it Saturday night at 6 or 7 p.m., period. Or on Sunday night, 6 or 7 p.m. At least it's consistent and we know what time it's going to be on. Because it's, when I was back in in early 90s, it was every Sunday, 1 p.m. Cup race was on. You knew it. You didn't have to go looking for it. You knew it. The only thing you had to worry about was finding what channel it was on. That was all you had to worry about. And most of the time, it was ESPN. That's it. Oh, the good old days. What happened to the good old days? Oh, okay, I'm off my high horse. Anyway, um, yeah, that's unfortunately today. Everybody thinks they have a good. It seems like in today's world, you hire people now, and it's that old adage. Well, it's broke. If it ain't broke, fix it. That's the new saying. It used to be, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. And now it's become, if it ain't broke, fix it. There's always a better way of doing it. I've got the way. And no, there's not always a better way. You know, there's things that go, and it's like, it's fine. Just leave it alone. Um, just keep going with the way it is. It's smooth, it's fast, it works. Just keep going. You don't have to change it, just let it alone. And the way things were for NASCAR, it was that way. And unfortunately, they decided to go way out there because, hey, we need to track all these young people and fans and stuff. We need to put these playoffs in, and the playoffs. That did not change the ratings or anything. I know that because I was watching that stuff. It didn't change it. It made no difference putting the ratings in there, putting the playoffs in there. The ratings didn't change a bit. didn't add fans for nothing. Um, then they had with the changing the start times of the races. That actually took away from the ratings because people got tired of trying to figure out where the races were at. Um, when they started all this stuff, actually the ratings started going down. Everything had peaked in 2002, 2003. And then things started, once they started adding all this stuff, it started sliding down. And I know because I was going to the races back then, you could not get a ticket. Could not get a ticket. Bristol, forget it. Night race at Bristol. Oh my gosh, they had a waiting list that was 8 years long. 8 years long. You had to wait. They had heck just to go to Charlotte Motor Speedway for the Coke 600 or the 500 spring or fall race. I mean, everything was sold out. You could not get a ticket. It was just that's how it was. Um, it from about I would say I want to say about 96 was when things really started picking up, and it you had I mean you got to the point where you just things were selling out and it made it hard to get a ticket, and then it was that way for all the way through till about 2003, 2004, and then things started the downslide, and then you started seeing open seats here and there, and then the grandstand started being more and more open. Ticket sales slid, and now, I mean, you look around and these grandstands are empty. They've taken down, oh my gosh, I don't know how many seats they've taken down at these racetracks. When I first started going to these races, they couldn't build enough grandstands. Every time I went to a race, uh, there was new grandstands every year from the previous year. You go back and go, oh my gosh, you go around, oh my gosh, look at all these new grandstands. Look at all these new facilities they put in from the previous year. And I look at it on TV now. I haven't been to a race in 10 years. I think the last one I went to was Phoenix, and that was probably 2012, I want to say. Yeah, because my dad and I went. But that was, but I know just watching TV, like when I watch the races, I'll look at the overhead when they do the overhead shots. I'll look and I'll go, oh my gosh, that grandstand's gone, or all this stuff that was there, it's gone. So I know that a lot of the stuff that was there, it's no longer there. So they're taking away a lot of the seats, and then you look at the TV ratings. I mean, I was looking at them the other day, and it was like 1.8 million people watching. That's not a whole lot, not especially in a country of 335 million people. Are you kidding me? 1.8 million is all it's watching. Back in the early 2000s, it was like 18 million people watching. So yeah, I mean, they need to get something. I would really like to see them go back to what's on the showroom floors, what they're racing. And that's the way it was back in the '90s. And see what they could, see what the manufacturers can come up with to put on the racetrack. And the old deal of win on Sunday, sell on Monday. I'd love to see that come back. That would be interesting. So that would really make things interesting. I think make it an actual stock car again. Oh, would that be fun? Anyway, well, with that, I think we've talked about enough for now. Kind of gives you an idea of what my background is with NASCAR. Like I said, I have some ideas of what goes on. I've been around it long enough, um, inside and outside of the sport. Um, my brother, I didn't really finish on my brother, but my brother, he ended up racing local tracks for about 10 years uh, after I got out of it and he got out of it with our car. He decided to pick it up and again, and he did it for 10 years. And I would give him some advice because after I had to retire from the police department because of my stroke, my late wife and we decided to travel the country. And I couldn't be around to help him with his car. And so whenever he had a question that popped up that he needed, something to change on his car to make him be able to drive it or feel more comfortable in it, he would call me up and say, "Hey, Bob, what do I need to do to help with this or with that?" And I would try to give him some advice on that. So even though I wasn't there working on it, I still had some involvement with trying to help him out, which was fun. I mean, it made me feel good that he would call me and ask, for some advice anyway. But anyway, with that, hope everybody has a good week, whatever, till the next episode. There is so much going on right now, and I've got so much that I want to talk about. I'm to the point where I don't even know where to start. I've got notes laying everywhere around here that I've been putting together, and I'm like, where I want to talk about this. No, I want to talk about this, and it's just kind of like. Ugh. But anyway, we will get to whatever I can come up with next that I feel like I can get out here. And we will do it very soon. It won't be as long between episodes. Unfortunately, the reason why there was a little bit of a delay between the last episode and this one was my wife had a bit of a health scare, and she spent a couple of days in the hospital. And with that, of course, she's in the hospital. I'm in the hospital because I'm not going to leave her in there by herself. So fortunately, everything worked out good there. But I wanted to make sure she was okay, and she is, which is good. And so now we're back to somewhat of normalcy again. And now that we're going to get back to this, and we're going to get back to rolling on this, and hopefully we will get to doing more episodes uh, as things go along here. Thanks for checking in. I appreciate it. I hope you have some idea of what my background is with NASCAR and stock car racing. It's something that I thoroughly enjoy and love. And if you have any questions, comments, whatever, please leave them. uh, especially on the YouTube page. And with that, we will talk to you soon. God bless you, and take care of yourselves, and God bless the USA. Take care.